What's up, everybody? Welcome to Omnic Lab. This is episode 119. And yes, this episode is just me and Andres. This week, we are going to be doing fireside chit-chat about the PTR and the brand new Torbjorn rework. It's been a while since we talked straight news, and it's honestly quite needed right now as we kind of like want to put this in the log of like what our first impressions are of things on the PTR, things that are coming that you're going to want to be aware of, and talk a little bit more shop on these things. So my name's Rob. I'm coming in from southern Japan, and joining me as always, coming in from the southern United States, is Andres. What's up, Andres?
All about that southern. Yeah, I'm good. Excited to be here. I haven't slept very much, but I think that the caffeine is keeping me alive right now and going, so I'm ready for this. All these new changes, man.
Yeah, there's lots of really cool stuff coming to the PTR, especially with Torbjorn, and we had some big updates. But before we do all this stuff, let's get some housekeeping out of the way. We have a brand new game night coming in next weekend, September 28th. This is going to be on Friday night, and it starts pretty much whenever you show up is when the party starts, and you guys can join in. We have a few people doing lobby runs. I'll be there a little bit later. Andres will probably be there depending on his class schedule
I'll be there.
Point.
I'll be there kicking some ass.
All right, taking some names. So you guys better show up and put him in his place if you want to. Additionally, we have a sponsor, Top Score Solutions. Ben, aka I Need Peeling, is still offering this business consultation esports field type thing. We're still waiting on him to let us know some of the cool secretive stuff about his rebrand or readjustment on this post here. But basically, it's kind of just developing after services, aspiring coaches, starting teams, boosting subscriber bases, working in esports. You can find all this information at topscoresolutions.com or Topscore Esports on Twitter. And his Discord name is I Need Peeling. That's why we include it here. Additionally, we have our friend Switch, which runs Omnic Meta. On Omnic Meta, he has a player stats page link that you can actually just, similar to Overbuff, but this is kind of like parsing it down to things that Switch thinks players are looking for specifically, the things that will actually help you on your ladder experience. So if you're not looking for all of the other distractions, trying to double down and focus on things that might be important for your ladder experience, at least kind of like narrowing your focus, that's something you can do there.
I definitely
get on that if you.
I definitely recommend everybody to check him out. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that we always talk about Omnic Meta. He does data analysis basically for Overwatch, and he pulls out really cool articles regarding pick rates, and when a hero gets changed, he kind of goes in and sees the data, see what's changed, what's being played, what the hero, if it's doing damage or not. Really cool stuff. But now he's added another section to the website, like you said, Rob, where you can actually check your own profiles. And the way that he's laid it out for you is really cool because it compares you to a lot of the other players in your rank, and it gives you a percentile, basically. Kind of like Overbuff does. I really like the layout that Switch has given it. It's very clean. It's very nice to see and organized. So give it a shot. Tell us what you think. And if you like it or have any feedback, make sure to get in touch with him. You can do it through Discord.
You can check your sessions like win rates and stuff, and like that's what I use it primarily for, is tracking my win rates. I don't have to do this manually. And it's really, really effective that way. Additionally, we have our Omnic Lab episode spreadsheet. If you guys are looking for that, I was hopefully going to be updating it this week again. I'm going to try to get on top of that. This is basically your guidepost for finding what heroes we've done, if we've revisited them or not, and then other like key topics that may interest you that are not specifically hero guides. And then we also have the map guides in that list. And Andres, you want to talk a little bit about Humble Bundle?
Yeah, like we announced last episode, we're now partnered with Humble Bundle. This month is a very special bundle since you can get Overwatch right away when you sign up for the $12 bundle. And you get a full copy of Overwatch just for $12. So it's a perfect occasion to get that second account, or third, or fourth, or fifth, or like some of you out there. We know you guys playing with 5 accounts. Not that I had seen anything wrong with it. You know, you gotta have your Torb account, your Symmetra account, your Widow account, your Brigitte account. You gotta keep those win rates separate. But yeah,
Jeez.
if you're interested in that, Humble Bundle is a great promotion for this month. It's gonna be going for the rest of October. And if you want to do it through our link, you can go through humblebundle.com/monthly !partner equals Omnic Lab. And I know that's kind of a handful. We've been posting the link on our Discord, on Twitter, and our social media, so you can find it there. We'll also put it in the link to the show notes. It's a great way to also support the show and get something out of it.
Yes, and if you guys are looking for anything else on Humble Bundle, that affiliate link, I guess you could say the second half where it talks about !partner equals Omnic Lab. If you kind of put that at anything at Humble Bundle, like their books program, any of their other monthly stuff, it will also be an affiliate link for us. We've been talking with them in emails, and apparently our affiliate link works with any of their programs. All right, let's talk about the PTR. Let's not beat around the bush here. There's some really cool stuff coming. Andres is going to kind of briefly overview some of the things that are kind of here and who's been affected, and then we'll dive right in.
Sounds good. Actually, we have a lot of changes coming in this new PTR. The most notable being the Torbjorn rework, like we said at the top of the show. It's been long overdue. Jeff had announced it a long time ago. Torbjorn has been almost a dead hero, at least in the competitive scene of Overwatch. You see it come out very rarely. It's like a legendary creature just popping out here and there. He had his moment to shine way back when the game released. I remember when Overwatch got announced, that BlizzCon. I think it was in Mike Morheim. I'm blanking out on his name.
Mercer?
Yeah. No, Scott Mercer? No, that's the Blizzard developer.
Who are you talking about?
I'm talking about the guy that used to be in the Overwatch team and retired, and Blizzard fans are gonna hate me for this. He's written like a bunch of the Overwatch and Warcraft lore as well.
Oh, he's
Chris
gone
Metzen.
now?
Chris Metzen.
Metzen.
Jesus, I don't know why I blanked out on this. I remember Metzen comes out and he says, you know, we've been playing Overwatch and some people have been taking Torb and planting a turret on top of the payload and putting a shield on it, calling it the Turret of Death. And I remember since then it was like a bunch of Torbs just putting turrets on top of the payload for the first week of Overwatch.
I don't think it was Metzen, actually. I'm going to look this up really quick. I can't remember. He does the voice of Thrall.
Yeah.
And the voice of Bastion. Oh, it is Metzen. You're right.
Yeah, it was Metzen who announced it, and he was making fun of Torbjorn for putting the turret on top of the payload and saying that he was super OP.
Yeah, now he can put it anywhere the heck he wants, and he doesn't have to spend time putting it up. So we'll get to that here in a minute. What other heroes are affected, Andres, that are really, really interesting?
We also have a change to Brigitte. Her shield health is going down from 600 health to 500 health. We also have a change to McCree. Combat roll has been reduced from 8 seconds to 6 seconds, so slightly more mobility and a ton more bullets for McCree. Pharah going through a lot of changes over here. I honestly was not expecting all these changes to Pharah, but Blizzard has their own plans over there. Concussive Blast, the cooldown has been reduced to 9 seconds, down from 12. The rocket launcher has undergone a lot of changes. The attack speed has been increased, and I know that Rob was playing her before, and you were saying that is very noticeable, the speed increase for some of the rockets. We also have...
It's really weird. So it says the attack speed is increased by lowering what's called the recovery time between shots. So basically, it's kind of like a shot cooldown. If you're shooting anything that doesn't have like a beam or like a constant flow, there's what's called a recovery time between the animation and when you can shoot the next time. So this is a 0.9 second cooldown currently, and it goes down to 0.75. And when I read this, I was like, it's really not that fast. And I was very, very wrong. I went onto the PTR with my good friend Zadka in the Discord, and holy smokes, it's really fast. Because you got 6 rounds in the barrel. So you can effectively, like, after 6 rounds, you've saved almost a full second. So to give you an idea, it takes like almost, let me see, 6 times 0.15. I can't even do quick maths.
And we also have to take into account in
It's,
Overwatch.
yeah, it's 0.9 seconds.
Right. And in Overwatch, 1 second is a lot, you know. A lot can happen in 1 second. In 1 second, you can get stunned and headshotted with a flashbang bang from McCree. So, you know, that has happened.
They rebalanced her damage with accordingly.
Yes. Now the explosion damage has been reduced. So the area of effect damage that happens around her impact has been reduced to 65, down from 80. And the impact damage, so if you hit a direct rocket hit, actually has been increased to 55, down from 40. So
they actually took 15 damage away from Splash, and they just moved it into the impact. That's all they did with the damage.
That's knockback has always been reduced too. You know, like that small knockback that you have, not from your concussive blast, but just from your regular shots. It's been reduced 20%. So Pharah will be kind of booping you a little bit less with the explosions. And she boops herself a little bit more, actually. The self knockback range for her has been increased by 25%. So actually, rocketing yourself to boost yourself out of the way has become a lot more viable. It's like a mini concussive blast. It already was, and people were already using it to get more height or, you know, get places faster at the price of some health. But now you're going to be able to even do that even more.
So, Andres, a random question, because I don't play a whole lot of Pharah normally, but when you play her to do this rocket jump, do you take the damage from a direct rocket for yourself damage, or do you take the splash damage only?
You take the splash damage only. Yeah. You don't get hit by the direct rocket, only by the explosion. And since you usually jump, you jump a little bit before the explosion, you only receive a fraction of the damage. It's kind of like 25 health or something like that.
So you're taking even less.
You might be taking even less, yeah. I think the knockback has been increased, but I don't know if the damage you take has been reduced. That might still be the same.
Well, it does say the explosion damage was reduced, so I would assume.
Oh, maybe. Maybe.
So maybe they're promoting the style of play a little bit more with Pharah, and kind of supporting that.
I'm fairly certain you don't take 80 damage from the rockets, though. That would be too risky to do.
Some kind of reduced self damage reduction or something. I don't know. Let me read these developer comments on this change in particular. We wanted to increase how responsive Pharah's rocket launcher felt. Having almost a full second of recovery between shots made it feel very sluggish. To balance this out and the improved recovery time, we shifted some of the damage from the rocket's explosion to the directs. The overall damage potential is now increased if you can land the direct hits, and decreased slightly when you can only hit the outside of the direct or the explosive damage. We reduced the amount of knockback on the explosion causes, as they made it very difficult to aim at Pharah while rockets came in at a faster pace. The concussive blast on cooldown reduction should also allow the ability to sync up more closely with your jump jet cooldown when you use it for mobility.
Now, I think actually this last part is pretty big, because something similar happened to Widowmaker. She had her grapple hook at 9 seconds, and it got increased up a little bit. And when you had it at 9 seconds, it actually bought you enough time for you to use it as a repositioning tool, you know, to just hit it against, you know, a back wall and go flank through a crazy, you know, alley up in the rafters or something. But with the change, by the time they spot you, they have enough time to jump on you, and your hook is usually still and a little bit of a cooldown, right? Unless you hide for too long, and it's detrimental when you hide for that long, right? With Pharah, the same would happen. If you use your concussive blast to boost or knock yourself over to gain speed or relocate yourself fast, you will probably not have it enough time, for that fight or so. A good example of this is on Lijiang Tower on the garden map, on the outside map where she's known to be able to boot people off of the bridge. Normally, you can't use your concussive blast coming right out of the gate, because if you do, then you don't have it to kind of like throw it at the bridge. I'm curious to see with this change, things like that, like concussive blast to get you off really quick, and then you have it. Yeah, 3 seconds sooner might be enough to have it when they're crossing the bridge. So interested to see how that changes, being able to use it more often for both purposes.
Yeah, now this is something that I'm not quite sure on with a lot of the damage, because I was trying to do some damage calculations with the new explosion impact damage. And if you take a direct hit with a damage boost from Mercy, it makes the shot, instead of taking how do I say this? Instead of taking 55 increased damage or 55 damage, it goes up to 71.5 for a damage calculation on the direct. And I'm guessing that the 71.5 is not the full damage, because the explosion damage was like really big. So I'm guessing there's some kind of like, if you take the impact of the rocket, you take like impact damage and then a little bit of the explosive damage, something like that. Is that correct, Andres? When you're taking a direct rocket, do you just only take the 55?
I think that when it's the direct rocket, I'm pretty sure that it's not just 55 damage. I think you take both, because when you hit it direct, like the maximum amount of damage you can do is 150. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, so it goes from,
or
so
no,
the
120.
totality
120.
of the damage is the same.
120. My bad. It's not 150. It's 120 if you hit at the rocket right now. So it's the outside damage plus the direct hit. So before it would be 40, which was the direct hit, plus 80 from the explosion on the outside.
Okay, so the totality of the damage is the same. Nothing has changed there, because they're moving 15 in from one to the other.
I believe so. So her damage in totality has not been increased, but hitting direct hits now does a massive payout versus before it was still really good. But now you really want those direct hits. Hitting around the target is not going to damage them as much. So it's really going to punish people who are not very good at aiming with Pharah, and it's going to reward players who are really good at getting those direct hits. So Shadowburn, agilities, all those guys in the Overwatch League are gonna have a blast using this Pharah.
This also means that when you are hitting your explosive damage, you're gonna be farming your ultimate significantly slower, just because you're missing, if that makes sense. Like and when you do hit, the damage is much lower, so the total payout into your ultimate charge is going up slower. So you just got to keep that in mind. But having this like spacing tool and being more active, and then being able to fire more shots per round, is potentially giving you more opportunities to quickly like make it more difficult for them to dodge and land more directs. So it's kind of one of those weird catch-22s where it kind of covers your butt by letting you shoot more often and making it more difficult for them to dodge in the first place. So that's why they kind of rebalance it.
The speed increase is definitely going to make it a lot harder to dodge, because right now, if you're fighting a Pharah, you can kind of get into her rhythm, right? When she fires the first rocket, if you're familiar with playing Pharah a little bit, you can kind of time the hits so that when you hear the first rocket, you peek, you do your shots, then you come back in, the second rocket hits, and then you can kind of do that because it's slow enough that you can get into that rhythm. With the increase in speed, though, it might be a huge liability to be trying to do this, because you might not actually have enough time in between rocket hits to do it, right?
Yeah, and Andres and I were talking a little bit in the pre-show about how this change could be really, really strong. But then we started looking at some of the changes, the hit scan that we've seen over the last couple months, including Ana, Soldier, McCree. And then we got some more changes that we just mentioned. And basically, they're allowing the combat roll going to from 8 to 6 seconds, giving him another 2 seconds of recovery time faster on this cooldown. The developers are saying that this change is just feeling too restrictive in the past, so it would prohibit players from using it at all and saving it. So now with a faster cooldown, it'll allow him some more flexibility and decision making on using it just for a reload or using it more for mobility with the combat role. And then with Soldier, we haven't quite got down to him yet, but I'm going to skip down. In his pulse rifle, the number of shots until you hit max spread, where the assault rifle like circle expands, is increased from 6 to 9. So it will take you 9 full shots to get to the max spread. And Soldier's 76, this is the developer comments. Their damage output was a bit low, but not too far off from where we felt it should be, making it take a few more shots to reach max spread, smooths out the weapon's spread curve, and should help his damage be more consistent.
I actually like the approach of this change. Rather than increasing his damage or changing his range or anything of the like, you basically just give players more control over the spread. So it's not necessarily boosting the hero by a whole lot, but it is boosting it for those players who can use it really well. Those players that have really good tracking can nail those headshots quite often. Now you get an extra 3 shots before, you know, your spread starts going haywire, which, you know, that means you're going to be able to press down on that trigger for quite a little bit of time.
I noticed that it was almost a full second longer that I could hold it, because, you know, this means that it's not going to hit max spread until 9. Not that you can, because before you would kind of like wait like 3 to 5 shots and then let go and then shoot it again.
Right.
But now it's almost like you can like hold it for like 6 shots. So 6 to 8 shots, because like as it's opening up, it's lowering slowly the total spread. So it's not that like it'll max spread at 6, meaning that it's like going like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and like getting really big. Now it's gonna be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Like it's gonna be like really fast for the after that. So the spread is more gradual. So you can hit a lot more shots in between the time when you're shooting the first shot and the 9th shot. And it definitely, that kind of a change is going to make dealing with long-range targets and Pharahs especially much easier. And giving McCree the ability to like dodge out of these shots faster for mobility, and also reload at the same time seems really, really good to deal with her.
The McCree reload is going to be quite interesting for, you know, medium range fights, since now at the time that you could do 3 rolls, now you can do 4. Basically, now that is like 6 seconds, right? Before it used to be 8 seconds, so every 24 seconds you could do 3. Now every 24 seconds you can do 4 rolls. Every 18 seconds you can do 3. Before, every 16 seconds you can only do 2. So I don't know. I think it's gonna change the dynamic on how McCree's use the roll. They're probably gonna use it a lot more freely now, just to straight out just reload and keep the onslaught going on. And yeah, slight relocation, but the relocation of the roll has never been, you know, the best thing about it. It's a very small thing, and you usually just use it to bait out things. You know, when a Genji dashes at you, or maybe a Winston is trying to fall on you, you just slightly move away. But that's it. Or a Doomfist charging at you.
You know, ever since they gave that lunge to Hanzo, it's just like all of the other DPS are getting like a little bit more mobility instead of them like taking the lunge away. They're like, let's make the game faster. Let's give everyone more mobility or more damage or something to kind of compensate for that.
Although, to be fair, the game has evolved quite a lot from its initial conception, right? Like when they first started the game, I'm pretty sure that Blizzard thought it was going to be a slower paced game, but as you know, player skill improved and stuff, certain heroes, it became just too apparent that Overwatch maybe it's better played a little bit faster. And since then, I think they've been changing the approach a little bit, going back to some of these heroes and being like, how about we give him more mobility? Being too static just doesn't blend well with what we have right now. And actually, I'd be curious to hear what the public thinks about this. You know, what our listeners think about this. Do you guys like that everything is getting a bit more mobile and, you know, kind of like all over the place?
Fast pace.
Fast pace. Or do you prefer a more methodical, slow approach? Attrition war, a Rhine barrier fighting versus another Rhine barrier until they can mitigate each other enough. I don't know.
Also, special thanks in the chat to Tundra for jumping in at the Twitch Prime sub. If you guys want to support the show, that helps us tremendously with supporting us. It's the easy way to do it for free. If you have Twitch Prime, you can just resub once a month, and if you can catch the live stream, more power to you. So thanks to that. Anybody else that does this during the live show, we try to shout out as we can. Additionally, let's jump into a little bit more accuracy for another fun hero, but this one is on the tank squad. Orisa's fusion driver's max spread is reduced from 1.5 to a 1.2. Orisa spends a significant amount of time firing the fusion driver from a relatively stationary location, and the weapon's spread value caused it to feel too random when you're trying to lead your targets at a distance. Taking into account the projectile's travel time, we tightened up the spread a little, or spread slightly, which should leave her close and mid-range damage potentially largely unchanged while making it a little better to hit targets at longer ranges. And after I was playing this, it honestly didn't feel too different. I definitely felt that dealing with a Pharah at like more medium range definitely felt a little more consistent. But like when you start getting the long range, it still didn't seem to do too much more. But it could just be my skill with the hero. It needs to be a little bit more adjusted. But yeah, this is a very, very slight change. And maybe you'll find something more long-term benefit from this. But I don't think immediately this is going to feel too big, at least for you guys out there.
It's interesting though, because there is a common theme in all of these changes, and I think they're giving all of these heroes a little bit more consistency. None of them are going through like radical changes, but every hero is just getting a slight tweak to just make it more consistent in their damage output, increase their damage by like a tiny little bit. Pharah is probably like the one that's getting the most changes aside from Torbjorn, of course. But then again, its changes are in the same vein, like they're just trying to give Pharah players who excel at playing with Pharah feel a little bit stronger. Pharah players who are a little bit more, learning feel a little bit weaker. I think that console players would certainly appreciate this because especially at the lower levels, I think Pharahs are going to feel maybe a little bit less oppressive. I think that's kind of what they're going for. And at the same time, giving McCree, Soldier, Orisa, tools to keep more consistent with their damage, be able to keep up with targets that have a lot of mobility a little bit more. Brigitte keeps getting toned down little by little. She already got a few nerfs on her stun. Now she's getting nerfs on her shield. I definitely think that they don't want to take her out of the meta. They don't want to make her too weak to the point where it's not, good to run. But yeah, but talking about Brigitte, by the way, we just did the episode last week on Brigitte, and that same week it exploded how the new Brigitte tech or bug, however you want to call it, is kind of like all over the place. Have you seen that, Rob?
Oh, yeah, this is the bug where she has, if you use the shield bash with the whip shot, you just do this crazy jump, and if there's an incline, you hit the incline and just boost really far. It's like...
It's kind of
really
like
weird.
It's kind of like what Doomfist players do. We've talked about it in our Doomfist going deep when you do your rocket punch, and near the end of your rocket punch, you jump, you press spacebar, and you basically float in the air, and it makes you kind of like this floaty character. So that if you hit a surface or an edge that is a little bit round, or it kind of like propels you upward, like almost like a ramp. Yeah. And it's a property in the game. You can do it with a couple different heroes. You can do it with Widowmaker and her grapple hook, for example. Kind of makes you floaty when you press spacebar right after it. And it turns out that you can do it with Brigitte as well. We didn't include it in the going deep because this does seem like something that could get patched pretty soon. We don't know if it's going to or not. It could be left in there because honestly, it's good Brigitte players can definitely abuse it. So we'll see what Blizzard decides to do about it. Like today, I was playing with Brigitte and actually found a couple good uses for it. I used it to chase down a Widowmaker twice, and from spots that like I couldn't normally get in. I was in Volskaya in point B, and I used the tech to jump from point B ground into kind of like those little hallways right above it, where the widow was, and you can do it. She jumps. For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, if you haven't been browsing the Reddits or YouTube, basically how the tech works is you shield bash while moving forward. As you shield bash, you jump, and right before your shield bash concludes, you use your whip shot, basically almost like animation canceling your shield bash. And this does something with the game. Apparently, it doesn't let the shield bash momentum resolve, basically, and it's almost like your whip shot drags you over. And again, if you hit a surface that's the right shape, you can get propelled upwards at an angle, so you can reach places that you normally can't reach before.
And you have to do this all like sequentially in a really fast succession. So it's just like shield bash, jump, whip shot, like boom, boom, boom.
Yeah, it's like a pa pa pa. Shield bash, jump, jump, push, pa pa pa. It's kind of like the rhythm. You have to do it, and if you do it right, yeah, you get propelled forward. You don't have to hit a surface; you still get propelled forward. So I was actually using as a gap closer in some certain situations whenever they're like a little bit far away from me, but I knew I could get aggressive. I was just using the technique to close the gap and start wailing on them with your flail.
You'll just go like a really long distance straight, or if you hit something that's like slightly upturned on the or rounded, like Andres was saying, it just hits it like a ramp, and you just go flying. So,
let us know how that works for you, nuts. And we'll see how that ends up panning out. Well, Blizzard hasn't really said anything about it, but I don't think that they intended Brigida to have that kind of movement ability. So we'll see what happens.
Definitely not. So let's conclude our thoughts here with the final piece, which is May. She got a visual update for her Blizzard ability, which looks incredible. But it says visual effects for all abilities. So apparently there is more fine-tuning with all of her other abilities that I didn't quite get to see. But the most noticeable one is the Blizzard. The Blizzard actually looks like a giant area of snow globe rather than blizzard. So you can see like a dome. And what this does is it basically gives you a visual representation within the blizzard, where if you are a vertical based hero like Genji, or you're jumping out like with Hanzo, or even just playing with Pharah, where your range is vertically so that you can stay out of it and yet maintain contesting that area. And so it's really, really cool. I definitely like this change for May.
This change overall is awesome quality of life change for both Mays and the enemy team, especially for the enemy team playing against the May. Pharahs are notorious for having this happen to them, because with the visual that we had, or that we've had so far, it's really hard to tell how far high it goes. And with this new visual, it's actually pretty obvious that it goes up pretty high. It's a pretty big orb, like vertical wise. It encompasses a big area. So now, as like you said, as a Genji or a Pharah, you have kind of like that delimiting zone that you can use as a point of reference now, so you never get frozen again. No more excuses, Pharahs.
And Andres, let's talk a little bit more about the colorblind options, because they have a significant rework. So what they said here is that they've basically done a major overhaul with regards to their experience in the video that Kaplan was talking. He said a lot of their work that they did with the spectator mode, they were able to bring a lot of that into the game and give that to colorblind people as an option for reskinning and coloring the effects in the game, so that you actually can see with colorblind options, because the current ones in the game right now are only for specific not brands, but specific areas of colorblindness, because there's colorblindness is a very diverse disability, I guess you could say, and you kind of just need to have something other than like a 2-color colorblindness within red and green, and even that is kind of like iffy because of depending on the severity of your colorblindness. So what they've done is they've let people customize how team colors are displayed in the UI, nameplates, HUD, health bars, hero outlines, with a set of 9 different colorblind friendly colors to choose from. You can colorize enemy and friendly UI separately. And the options are found under the options video, color blindness options, which are currently at the bottom in PTR. And then you can save them, and then the next match you play, they're in it. So in the pre-show, I was able to change this. And the best thing that I can tell you is that you can not only choose from 9 colors, but you can increase the filter sensitivity. of like how strong this is on a slider. And the slider has like a typical 1 to 100 scale, but it doesn't have the number. And then you can even change the they have a filter setup for you. So you can choose from 3 major just broad brush options, which I believe are already in the game. This is Deuteranopia, Protanopia, and Tritanopia for colorblind options. And then you can change the enemy UI or friendly UI colors to yellow, lime green, neon blue, aqua, tawny, like a dark brown, orange, magenta, or a regular standard default, which is that light aqua blue instead of the dark aqua blue. And then there's the red. So what I've done is, even if you're not colorblind, you can mess with these settings and it kind of change the effects of something that maybe you just like. So if you want to play the game and you want all your spell effects to be, I don't know, lime green, and then you want all of your enemies, you want all of your enemies to look like orange, and then all of your awesome abilities look like lime green, just choose those options, hit apply, and then I'm going to just go and leave the game and go back into the training mode and mess around with it. That's how I've been messing with them in PTR for now.
That's kind of cool, though. And apparently, some people might end up using it just to customize the look of their Overwatch, which I think it would be kind of cool, honestly. Kind of like they do with Overwatch League, like certain teams have certain color effects. Like, I don't know, Outlaws is all green and all their color effects are green when they come out. I think it would be cool if you could customize that and just make it your own. I don't know how Blizzard feels about that. You know, everyone just running Overwatch with different colors. I'm sure it would be like super competitive, good for like competitive, making it a lot of crazy colors, but at least aesthetically and for personal use, it would be cool to mess around with.
Now, as I'm messing around with this, I just want to let you know, if I've changed all of my friendly UI stuff to green and all of the enemy stuff to orange, this means all of the nameplates on my allies. This also means my my ultimate area. I'm also looking at my hero portrait in the bottom left, and the fire meter. All of that's green, and then all of this stuff in the kill feed for allies showing up is green, and all of the enemy things in the feed are orange, and the enemy outlines are orange, the enemy hero names and stuff are orange, and then when you eliminate something or something happens in the middle of the screen, those are also orange.
Oh, cool.
And then when you, let's see. Okay, so the voice line menu is unchanged. And when you, so I'm using McCree, the ultimate, all of this, the UI effects with regards to that, those are all orange. Because it has relating to enemies, including the hit marker and the skull that pops up. All of that is orange. So
nice.
Pretty cool stuff.
Nice.
There are some really cool stuff that I know that we haven't talked about on the show because of Going Deep episodes of kind of like interrupted regularly scheduled news updates. But Andres, let's go into the Torb changes, and then we can retroactively go back on things that may look important.
Sounds good. All right, guys. Torbjorn has gone back to the workshop and has come out a new man, complete makeover. Yeah, he still retains a lot of his flavor. He still lays down turrets. He still has his, molten core go crazy and start shooting really fast kind of thing. But now, kind of like Mercy, it's no longer his ultimate. Now his baseline 2 abilities is 1, deploy turret, which automatically deploys a level 2 turret. There's no more levels for turrets, actually. There's just 1 turret, and is the max upgrade that you could make before by hammering on the turret. It deploys automatically, instantaneously. It takes a little bit of time to build up, at like, I don't know, a second or so for it to kind of like assemble. But you don't have to hammer it, and you can like chuck it, kind of like Symmetra chucks, or kind of how you used to chuck your armor packs. You can kind of like lob him out into the air, and you can throw it into places where you couldn't reach before. So you don't actually have to be in front of it to plant it, which is a huge change for this type of ability. The other ability that he's gained is Overload, and this one is replacing his armor packs. Armor packs are no longer in the game. He no longer uses it, and same with the scrap mechanics. He no longer gather scrap anymore. And instead, he's getting overload, which is basically what the old molten core used to be. You go into this enhanced form. Um, you it lasts for 5 seconds with a 12-second cooldown. It temporarily grants you 150 armor, so you become a little bit more durable, and it increases your attack, your movement speed, and your reload speed by 30%. So you cannot just go into this berserker rage for 5 seconds. You can use it fairly often at 12 seconds, so at least once every fight, you'll be able to pop this baby out and use it. I didn't mention the cooldown for the turret, by the way. It has a 10-second cooldown.
The cooldown is really weird with this ability. And the main thing that I was noticing with why it was weird had to do with like the cooldown is affected basically if the turret dies while it's building itself versus if it's killed by an enemy when it's already built.
Oh, I see
And
it
then
over
if
here.
you hit the interact button, you can detonate it by yourself to just delete it if it's not in a spot that you want.
Oh, okay, I see it. Okay, if you successfully build the turret, it goes on a 5-second cooldown, meaning that after 5 seconds, you can throw it again somewhere else, reposition it, no problem. On the other hand, if it gets destroyed by an enemy during combat, it goes instantly to a 10-second cooldown. So I'm actually curious to see if, like, let's say Torbjorn puts down the turret and before the 5 seconds happen, it gets destroyed. Like right before the 5-second mark, if it would be a total of 15 seconds at that point that he has to wait. It seems that every time the turret gets destroyed, your ability automatically goes on a 10-second cooldown, which does mean that destroying the turret is worth it, you know, like paying attention to it a little bit and leaving Torbjorn without a turret for at least 10 seconds rather than, you know, the 5 seconds, which can also mean...
The other thing...
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say the other thing is that it still hits 10 seconds. Like, you still have to wait for it if you destroy it yourself, because it does spend the whole time locking you out of destroying the turret while it's building itself. So if the enemies aren't killing it and it builds itself and you're like, crap, I really don't want my turret there, and you destroy it with the F key or the interact key, whatever you have it bound to, then it will destroy the turret and start the normal 10-second cooldown, and then you can place it again.
Interesting. It seems that you constantly want to replace it by just, you know, recasting it, because then that way you don't get penalized for the 10 seconds.
You know, you can't recast it. It locks you out of recasting the ability.
Oh, gotcha.
You have to destroy it or have an enemy destroy it for the cooldown to go on cooldown, and then you can rebuild it.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But the lob is really interesting, and in some ways it feels really solid because, like, you can put it on weird stuff. And actually, shout out to Zadka in our Discord. She and I hopped on the PTR in Busan, and we got into, I think it's Sanctuary, where it has like the really cool like temple in South Korea. And there's those little barrels that are up there in the center of the point, and then there's 2 on those little high rises on the side temple areas. And if you throw your turret up there on PTR, it will instantly like try to build on it, and then it'll disappear and go behind one of the enemy spawn doors, like into the abyss, and just sit there. It is the weirdest bug, and it was the first place I was like, this seems like a really crazy good spot for Torb's turret, because there's like a little, I don't know, some kind of tiger or cat statue in the middle of the this big barrel. It looks like a barrel, but I know that I'm being somewhat culturally naive on what that thing is. But there's this giant like culture point within their religious structure that's super cool on the point. And if you put the turret on one side of it, either side, anywhere, or even on the other side barrels, doesn't matter which barrel you put it on, it's going to teleport to the same spot for both teams. Because Zadka and I were messing with it. We were just laughing our butts off. Just like, what is going on with this? This is the weirdest bug. And we even tried putting Orissa's barrier up there. It doesn't do anything different. It just went up there. And we didn't try to get up there as a hero, but I assume it wouldn't teleport you across the map. It just seems like it's just the Torb turret. And shout out to also, again, Tundra again for suggesting that I go back into the PTR and test this with Symmetra turrets. It might also be bugged with those, but just to keep it in mind.
Interesting. Talking about Torbjorn's abilities too, his primary fire
Yeah.
and alternate fire remain the same. You still do the the lob shots with your primary fire. You still do kind of like the shotgun style rivet gun with your alternate fire, but they have been modified slightly. The primary fire is slightly faster, moved up from 60 to 70 per second. You also the reload time has been reduced. You reload 0.2 seconds faster, so not by much, but a tiny little bit. But one little thingy that your primary fire does is whoever you're shooting with your primary fire, your turret is also going to focus. So you almost have a way of calling the attention of your turret depending on who you're firing with your primary fire, which I don't know if it's the case right now. Honestly, I don't play much Torb, so I think it's just random, right?
I watched Siegel freaking out about these changes. He's like, this change and the like little speed boost plus armor ability that he has now, that's basically like storm arrows with armor without the mobility that Hanzo has, is kind of what they're doing for Torb. He's like, this hero's gonna get nerfed so fast. Like, this might make it to live server. This is gonna get nerfed really quick. Because giving any hero like 150 bonus health that is also armor is crazy, even if it's only temporary. And then allowing them to have speed increase on their shots and stuff is just stupid. Also, his primary fire, aka just the scrap shots, and then the shotgun round. The shotgun rounds have reduced spread damage and also match cadence. So your shotgun overall will do less damage, but match the timing of your regular shots, so that if you're shooting primary or secondary fire with the gun, it's going to hit the same cadence. So you can like boom, 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 whether it's single shots or shotgun shots.
Oh, cool. You can mix them in however you want.
And the fact that the turret isn't shooting into Reinhardt barriers just constantly, because you can direct who you want it to shoot if it's within line of sight of your turret, is really good. So the turret's just going to be like boom, 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 boom when it's shooting a Reinhardt. But if you land a shot on a Pharah, it's just like, nope, I'm going to shoot that. So that's really
very
good.
strong. That's very strong, being able to kind of call your turret like that, almost like calling your pet.
Yeah, it seems so much better, especially when you give the idea that you could just like chuck your turret somewhere and within a couple seconds it's going to fire whatever you're shooting. Is just seems really good, even just for dueling.
Yeah, for dueling is kind of very important, because you can kind of throw down your turret and make a 2v2 or like a 2v1, make it almost like a 2v2 at that point, or at least like a 2v1.5. And then you can tell your turret who your focus is, so you can, target that person first, bring him down, molten core, or not molten core, but overload, and kill the other person too.
and you getting increased speed, and then on your alternate fire, your right click for PC, your shotgun being lower means that you can land more of those spread shots against smaller targets on the head hitbox. So you're going to be doing a lot of damage if you can get in close. Torbjorns are going to be freaking scary. Let's talk about the ultimate, though.
Yeah, and to be fair, all these numbers are PTR numbers, right? Nothing is set in stone. They've already announced that he's probably going to go through a couple of changes. Just by watching people play on PTR, you can definitely tell that there's going to be changes to some of these numbers, because, yes, right now Torbjorn is quite strong.
He still has the hammer. It has not gone away. You still have the hammer. Overload still gives you 30% increased hammer attack speed for a 5-second duration, 12-second cooldown. Basically, all of his attacks 30% increased. Add 150 armor.
So can you still repair your turret if it's getting injured?
Yes.
Okay.
That is the only purpose for the hammer, aside from a melee damage boost.
And for style points when you kill somebody with it, obviously.
Yes. Now, Andres, you have to tell us about Molten Core, because this ability is crazy.
All right, new Molten Core. Basically, Splatoon comes to Overwatch this fall, guys.
Splatoon 3 confirmed?
But no, if you've ever played Splatoon, kind of like the way the ink works, you leave a bunch of ink in the battlefield and kind of thing. It's similar in visuals. Now you spread a bunch of lava, molten lava, into the floor, which deals a ton of damage over time. It acts as basically area denial for whatever you spray it. And the cool thing is you can kind of direct it, right? You can shoot it up in the air, and it'll lob and fall into the ground. You can actually spread it quite far away. It doesn't have to be like immediately in front of you. If you lob it, you can throw it quite a big distance away, but mostly you're gonna be using it to spray around the point, around the payload, basically making everyone get the hell out of the way. Really interesting mechanic. So far, we've had some mechanics that affect the floor like that, like May, for example, and
Blizzard,
freezing everyone. But
Doomfist.
I think that they still remain a little bit unique and niche. This one is definitely going to be interesting for certain points. Quite a powerful ability to make everyone get the hell out of there.
There are 10 molten projectiles that you have to use within 6 seconds. And if you don't use them all, they're gone. So you have 6 seconds to fire, and that window is really short. It feels a lot short. It's one of those weird things where we talked a lot about marginal things within firing, but if you're trying to like activate the ability and then like run over and then use it all, it doesn't really work. Like you kind of have to activate it when you want to use it. And yeah, Tundra just put something in the chat that I was just about to say, which is if you fire straight up in the air, because it doesn't latch onto anything except for floor, it will last a little bit longer in its effect because the duration that it stays on the ground lasts longer because it starts when it touches the ground, not when you activate the ability.
So it's not necessarily that it lasts longer, but it's kind of like the same idea as like the Orisa shield, right? Like you can throw it up in the air, so the cooldown starts the second you throw it, but the duration of the shield doesn't start until it hits the ground. So you're almost able to like create virtual duration, you know, like
You
that.
can do the same thing with May, honestly. Like you can throw Snowball into the air and you get the voice line, and you're like, oh crap, where is it? And you're still waiting, you're like, did our diva eat it? Oh crap, it's on top of me. You know what I mean? Because they just threw it in the straight up in the air.
Yeah,
I've seen
Saryas do that with their graviton
Yep.
too. Don't try it at home, boys. Though, don't try it at home.
It's not easy.
It's a very risky play. There's too many things that can go wrong, especially divas just eating it straight down.
Yeah. Now, something to be of note is that this ability is built to counter armor because it will do bonus damage to armored enemies, and this includes, but is not limited to, armor packs that or repair packs that you get from Brigitte, anything you've gotten from Rally from Brigitte, and also any tanks that just have armor. That armored section will deplete very quickly. And it's not just armor, because you sit in this stuff at any time. You if you're a tank, like they showed in the video with Hammond, just kind of going through it, if you just like walk through it, you are dead. Like it is very fast. Like think about like if you've played D&D and you've ever stepped a foot in lava, it's like, yeah, we're gonna roll a lot of dice for this. That's a lot of damage. Like,
no,
it is
absolutely.
molten freaking lava. Okay, like
it's,
don't touch.
Torbjorn is looking like a really good tank buster with his ultimate, and not only tank buster, but he's looking like a great hero to pick for close quarters combat, or when you're going up against a composition heavy on the tanks. You know, we all know that what's been labeled the GOATS comp. It's pretty popular nowadays. The triple tank, triple support. Let's just rush the point, stand over here,
It seems
and
like
cap
a
it.
direct anti-goats thing.
Yeah, you know, characters like Hammond, for example, are already a little bit in that vein, that they can get in there, gain a ton of shields, and then get out there really fast with their huge mobility. Torbjorn is looking pretty good too, having the molten core to be a little bit resistant in the middle of the fight, having the rivet gun, be able to shoot shotgun shots at close range, and still retaining some really good medium and long range if you can aim those shots with your primary fire. And then his ultimate, man, I want to see any tank try to stand in the molten lava when he sprays around. It's an immediate, you can't stand here.
There is actually a damage calculation for you. So it says bounces off walls and ceilings until it comes in contact with the ground. Base damage increases from 130 to 190 against enemies with armor.
Wow.
So I think how this works is because armor still mitigates damage, meaning that it does any single ability does -5 or it does half damage on any individual projectile, and then it caps off at 5. So like for pellets, and for example, it doesn't cut 5 damage pellets in half. It just cuts them to like 2.5, or cuts them in half instead of reducing them to 0. But
Mm-hmm.
this basically means instead of taking 130 or 125 damage, you're taking 185 damage, which is insane.
That's
And I
yeah,
think
it's insane.
I don't think this is per second. I think this is faster than per second. I think this is like when you touch it and then it keeps going.
It happens over time, but I want to say it is per second. Like when I was watching from the PTR, it just deals damage really, really fast while you're standing in it. Like it eats you up. But obviously, you know, being Overwatch, getting out of it is not super hard. Like you might
Okay.
need some crowd control to kind of keep the enemy team in it, but it just seems like a great response. For example, for rally, for Brigitte's rally,
Yeah.
when the enemy team is just rushing at you with Brigitte's rally, you just lay that on the floor and you're like, all right, try it now, Brigitte. You're gonna eat her entire rally.
Okay, it looks like it is per second because the video on the forum actually started Hammond with like 100 health. So when he walked through it, he was just instantly dead. He didn't start from full health. I thought that he started from full health. That's my fault. But the funny thing is, you can sit on the point as Torbjorn, deploy your turret, and then you hear rally, and you just like, oh crap, and then you like burn a circle around you, and you say, not in my house, not in my house. And you have this ring of death on the point.
Yeah, it makes it super dangerous for guys like Brigitte or Reinhardt or even Zarya, you know, to just kind of like go in because they don't have a lot of mobility. If they're in there and they don't have a good way to get out, and if they get stunned or booped around it so that they can't get out, oh, that's a sure death right there.
Combining that with Lucio seems really good. And like if you like you said with the Zarya, you only need like 2 of the globs to go down where the Zarya thing is, and then you can kind of just put them around so that if a Moira fades out or if allies are coming in around the area, you can shut them down too.
Yeah. Now that being said, you can make your ultimate a lot more effective. You know, I'm pretty sure that some people are gonna have to practice spreading around. You don't want to just spray it in kind of like the same area. You want to cover as much of an area as you can. Like you said, you only have 6 shots, and every shot kind of like puts like a glob in the ground.
6 seconds, 10 shots.
10.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can technically cover an entire point if you do it the right way, but you do have a very limited amount of time, so you kind of have to use them wisely and sort of quickly. So it'll require some practice, but yeah, make sure you get as much surface area as possible.
Each one puts like a pretty sizable spot on the map.
Yeah.
You guys definitely want to go test this out because each individual blob is quite large. The video didn't really do it justice because they're kind of like layering them by slowly tracking it over.
Yeah, and honestly, the damage might get toned down a little bit on this thing. Right now, it deals a lot of damage, and they might be starting high in the PTR to kind of see what's that threshold where it feels OP, and then kind of like bring it down from there.
Okay, there are a few things left on the actual patch notes that we missed. So I'm just going to run through these, and Andres, you can interrupt me and talk through it. So the first thing is Busan is, or I suck at pronouncing Korean names, so I'm sorry, guys. It's with a B, but I've heard it's pronounced with like a BP sound in Korean.
Busan. I can't do it.
Busan. Pretty close. Busan. And they have Sanctuary, Downtown, and then the Mecha Base. These are all control maps. These are live not only in the game, but also in competitive now.
Ooh.
And let's see. General hero updates. There's a bug that would cause some weapons that fired multiple shots at once to be inconsistently deal crit damage, like Doomfist hand cannon, Diva's drivers, Genji shurikens, Reaper shotguns, Torbjorn rivet gun. So it's a bug fixed. Ana has some more things that you can change within her precision of the relative aim sensitivity when you're zoomed. This is basically your zoom sense that can be found under your options under Ana. Brigitte's shield bash. We talked a little bit about this with Jinx, which is that it now will knock down and also knock herself down if a Reinhardt is charging you and you shield bash them. So you both fall, similar to Doomfist. Reinhardt got a bunch of changes with consistently hitting enemies near walls, no longer hitting enemies that enter the damage cone or the wave after the pass. So basically, it's more of an instant thing and not like a lingering thing. It's more consistent with when you use Earth Shatter, it happens. Not like if you have the 2 Reinhardts showing their shields and like No, you shatter first. No, you shatter first. If you drop your shield after he shatters, you won't just fall to the ground randomly. That's kind of what happened a couple times if the frames were close. Enemy barriers behind no longer damages enemies behind barriers if they're blocking it. Even when the barrier is later dropped or destroyed, and it always travels up inclines around the payload. This was one of the hardest things that was the consistency issue for a long time. Andres mentioned grappling hook now retains momentum when it's used on environments or structures without a ledge. So this is a long-standing issue with Widowmaker that people were really like upset about. You basically like, I have to grapple this one little ledge or I can't get my momentum. Now you can just get your momentum on anything. And then she also has some precision on the relative aim sensitivity like Ana has been adjusted. Let's see here. Map updates. Rialto's payload travel speed has been slightly increased, apparently because it really sucks to move the payload on certain points of the map. And pauses at checkpoints have been reduced because the payload does stop for a really long time on this map, especially point 1, I've noticed. The Rialto's just like, nah, the payload's going to kind of like build a fire and have some s'mores for a little bit before you start moving. But that's kind of mostly it. I'm looking through here. The last update was August 28th, which is some Nano Cola challenge stuff, which was like not really competitive. It's just like some fun skin stuff, so we didn't really mention it. I think the event is actually concluded now. So I don't think there's anything else besides this Roadhog thing here. Roadhog scrap gun. This has actually got some contention in our Discord, but let's just read this off. Primary fire, fall off range changed from 10 to 20 meters, from 10 to 20 meters to 15 to 30 meters. So the alternate fire also now has damage fall off, which is the same as the new primary fall off damage, 15 to 30 meters.
I do get the idea behind this. The secondary fire from Roadhog was just never meant to be able to hit people really far away, even though the damage is almost negligible. I think that it's still just not what they intended to do, which was still happening. You know, like you could still kill a Pharah that was really far away from you. If you just got lucky with a few of the pellets, you could just hit her for a few of them and finish her off. Even if she was still at a healthy, like, or not healthy, but you know, I would say it's safe 50 health or something, where you might feel safe from a Roadhog, but they might still get you. So I think it's solving that kind of issues. Although I can see some people saying, like, you know, Roadhog is already in a dubious spot right now. He's having a really hard time, especially since Ana has been let loose and grenades just keep falling on the poor little guy. But I don't know. I still see him from time to time. He still pairs up really well with Orisa. He's falling out of favor a little bit, but I don't know. What do you think about Rhodey? Rhodey who?
Honestly, I feel like this is more of a consistency issue with the game, something that's kind of unintended that just happened to be in there. They basically said developer comments. Roadhog Scrap Gun alternate fire did not have damage fall off, which has sometimes made it too powerful against faraway targets. To balance out a slightly power decrease, especially against barriers, we decided to push his overall weapon's effective range out a bit further before the damage fall off begins to take effect. Alternate fire fall off begins from where the scrap projectiles are formed, not from Roadhog's firing position. So effectively, that distance when you're firing an alternate fire, there's like a little ball that goes out, and then the ball detonates into the scrap projectile, giving you more range. And if the ball you could get to detonate right before a head hitbox, all of the projectiles would just explode into the head and kill somebody.
I've been there.
Now what they're doing is you're giving you 15 meters before the damage fall off starts from the point that explodes. So you have like a good 20, I think I would say 25 meters is probably a good distance between when that fall off damage goes. But you have to keep in mind, fall off damage is a lot less effective when it comes to heroes like Roadhog and Reaper when you're using shotgun blasts, because you have like these pellets are just going these random directions and these huge spreads. Even the alternate fire has a pretty large spread. So basically they're just making it so that Roadhog just can't farm killing shields very easily from super far distances. They want him to play him in this minimum slash medium range of effectiveness, and it's less about nerfing a hero that doesn't need nerfed and more about making him like in line with everybody else, and then probably adjusting him later down the line would be my guess. But yeah, they said they fixed a bug that will allow weapons that fired multiple shots to deal inconsistently deal critical damage. So basically, they paired this with the bug fix, more or less. And we're getting some questions in the chat about why Reinhardt is disabled on the PTR, and I've almost forgot to mention that, so thanks for asking us. Due to causing a bug that caused the server to crash when Reinhardt is even picked, they disabled him on the PTR until Monday or early next week. So apparently, Reinhardt's too good. Reinhardt's too good.
Reinhardt's shatter is so strong, it just breaks the server, dude.
Yeah, so he basically just causes the servers to crash if you pick him for whatever reason. It's a very strange bug.
You got the ban hammer.
They're gonna fix it locally and then update the PTR by Monday or early next week. Probably by the time you guys are getting this podcast, he will be enabled, so you can mess around with him. But I definitely want to mess around with Reinhardt really, really soon because I want to know how Molten Core interacts with the shield if you shoot it at the barrier. If it like hits the ground and then Reinhardt starts taking damage when the barrier gets hit with the
melts
and, like,
melts the barrier slowly.
Ooh, that would be so cool. But I definitely want to try like lobbing Molten Core over Reinhardt barriers, and then he's like standing there with his shield, like, I don't want to die. You just see his health bar just go.
I love the sound effect.
Yep. All right, guys. I think that's gonna do it for the show. Andres, why don't you let people know how they can support us online?
Yeah, if you guys want to support the show, you can always go to patreon.com/OmnicLab and throw us a little tip over there. You can choose whatever you want to pledge to the show. It really helps us, pay for all the back-end costs as well as pay for trips to BlizzCon or Overwatch League and also upgrade stuff for the show and makes our hearts really warm. Also, if you want to send any feedback, you can do so over at discord.com/OmnicLab, or you can also send us an email at omniclabpodcast@gmail.com. Like we mentioned before in the show, you can also support us this month through Humble Bundle. We're partnered with them, so if you use the link that Rob is going to link here in the chat, and we'll also put it in the show notes, we have it in social media, but you can get Overwatch for $12 and help the podcast at the same time. It's a great way to support the show and get something out of it. And you can also always leave us an iTunes review if you guys like the show and want other people to be able to enjoy it as well. It helps us with the visibility, helps us reach a broader audience. So leave us an iTunes review. We'd love to read it on the show as well.
Okay, cool. We just set up Nightbot, so if you do !humble in the chat, you can see the link for the Humble Bundle link. Thanks,
Perfect.
our moderator, for hooking us up that way. If you guys want to find anything and everything to do with the show, please head over to our website, omniclab.com/links. You can find everything you're looking for there. We have merch. Believe it or not, we have merch. You guys can buy hoodies and T-shirts and tank tops and tote bags and even coffee mugs. And please join the Discord community if you want to be a part of the game night. That's how you do it. Discord.me/OmnicLab in your browser will give you a Discord invite random generation. And if you're looking for one, you can feel free to DM or tweet at us on Twitter, and we'll shoot you a link. I believe the link is also a regular Discord link on our Twitter feed and our website, too. You can also find it in the description of our Twitch page below. If you want to catch the live streams, twitch.tv/OmnicLab. You can find me on the interwebs with the tag NotRob with Twitter and Instagram. If you like Hearthstone, you can check out my other show called Velen's Chosen Podcast. We talk about Hearthstone. This week, it's going to be right after this, actually. This live show, we're going straight over and doing that. And that's going to be interesting. And then this week, we actually recorded a session on Concept Craft where I was doing the DM role for a honey heist game. And if you don't know what that is, you could check it out. It's going to be almost 3 hours, about 2 hours and 30 minutes. But I'll try to put that up on my Libsyn, conceptcraft.libsyn.com. Andres, where can people find you on the interwebs?
If you want to find me, you can find me over on Twitter at iPlayGames. You spell that IPLAI Games. And join me this Monday night to talk about the last group of the Overwatch World Cup qualifiers with Bob and Mel over at Owl Recap.
That's going to do it for the show, guys. If you guys want to find us, please do so. We are trying to be available, especially as BlizzCon is quickly approaching. We would deeply appreciate your support, both financially and morally, and it just helps us and warms our hearts. But remember, don't be a lab rat, be a scientist. We'll see you guys next week, and we're going to be hanging out with CarQ next week, talking about Ana.
Oh, yeah. Make sure you tune in.
All right, see you then.
Thanks for everyone in the chat. What's up, Lance Blizz Gamer? We also got Bullseye pumping up. Tundra, super active today. Kissing my dad says this is good news. That's an interesting name to have on Twitch, but you know, I'm not judging.
I have nothing more to teach you. The rest you must learn for yourself.
See you at BlizzCon, dude.
Walk
sure.
in harmony, my
Come and find us, Lance.
Did we meet
Oh
you
yeah,
last?
World of Podcasts. We need to mention that.
Did we meet Lance last BlizzCon? We met a lot of people, so I can't remember.
I'm sure we probably did if he was there. Most people are really good about finding us.
Alrighty, guys. Have a good one.